My name is Georgia. I'm in second year mechanical engineering with an option in biomedical engineering.
My name is Marysia, and I'm in my third year of sciences, and I'm studying physiology and psychology within integrated sciences. Yeah, so Georgia and I have been a team ever since we were little. We love working together. This is a photo of us on our senior soccer team in high school, both going up for the same header. She got it, which I was not too pleased about.
Yeah, we have this photo because it's really representative. We just ended up being interested in the same thing, and right now we're working towards the same goals, and we're on the same biomedical engineering student team, working on the same projects, exploring the same passions, and it's great to work with them.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to start off. The way George and I are going to go about this is we're going to give you guys a bit of an introduction into our experiences in high school, university, and kind of how we've gotten to where we are today, what our interests are, and hopefully that'll be helpful for you guys as you're obviously exploring your interests and trying to decide what you want to study. So in high school, I was very interested in science. I was a little science nerd in my school. I loved hanging out in the chemistry lab. And I knew in high school that I wanted to study sciences in university. Wasn't sure what area of science is, but I knew that it was definitely a passion of mine. Another thing I really enjoyed in high school was traveling and international service. So I had the opportunity to go to Peru in grade 9 and attend a youth conference as well as do some earthquake relief. And then in grade 11 I traveled to Thailand and did a water project. So those are two things that contributed a lot to my high school degree and around high school experience, and also led to me being the service prefect in my grade 12 year. So that was a good opportunity to have some leadership within my school. In high school, I was also really involved in soccer. I played competitively as well as on our school team, as you saw in the photo before. I didn't continue doing that in university because I decided that I wanted to focus more on my academics, but it was a love of mine to this day. I still enjoy soccer. So like I said, in high school I knew I wanted to study sciences. I knew that's what I wanted to do in university, but I didn't know which university I wanted to go to. So I applied to lots of different universities within Canada and sort of narrowed it down between McGill and UBC, which were just two of my top choices. And in the end, I ended up choosing McGill for my first year. I did a lot of pros and cons between UBC and McGill, and I think in the end, after thinking about it a lot, I just kind of wanted to go to McGill. I wasn't exactly sure. Maybe it was because I wanted to go. For those of you who don't know, McGill's in Montreal. I wanted to just travel to the other side of the country. But I ended up going to McGill for my first year. I went into life sciences, and so my first impressions in university were that, wow, this is a lot of really smart people, and I feel really intimidated. And I don't know if I should be here. I remember sitting in my first classes and just being in a class of 600 people and looking around and being like, wow, I feel like a number. How am I going to do well in this environment? And I kind of took that challenge and just decided that I was going to work really hard, and even though I felt really intimidated by my classmates, I was just kind of going to rise above that, and it kind of led to me having a very academically rigorous year. But it was a great experience, and it kind of taught me what I was capable of within university. And so first year was really fun. I was definitely very focused on academics in first year, and McGill was a really amazing experience, but as you may have guessed, I'm not at McGill because we're here at UBC right now. So I did transfer from McGill to UBC in my second year. And the reasons why was because towards the end of my first year at McGill, I started to kind of reevaluate how I was enjoying my undergrad and where I wanted to be. And I realized that while McGill was a really amazing school, it wasn't where I wanted to live. Montreal was really cold, and it didn't have the things, it was really cold, and it didn't really have the things that I love to do outside of school, which is ski, surf, see my family, whereas the West Coast, which is where I grew up, had those things. And so I'd say that was the primary reason why I decided to transfer. It was a lot easier than I anticipated to transfer. And when I look back on it, even though the decision I made in high school where to go to university wasn't where I ended up, there's no way I would take away my first year at McGill, because it taught me so much about what I was capable of as a student, but also where I wanted to be. Sometimes you have to make the wrong decision to understand where you want to be and what you want to be doing. And that's not necessarily a bad way. It's just gets you to where you want to go. And then this is a photo of my friend Carrie, and this is us at like 1 in the morning studying before our chemistry final. I made like a massive board, but you'll do a lot of that in university. Like night study. If you didn't, you might do that in high school too. I didn't do that in high school. Yeah, so I transferred to UBC, and my first day at UBC, I went to this talk by the assistant dean, and he said something that I still remember and is kind of something I always think back to throughout my degree, which was challenge yourself to understand. And when you think about that, to me it totally makes sense. I think learning should be about exploring, and it should be about understanding. It's not necessarily about getting good marks. It's not about studying everything that your teacher tells you to. It's about really loving what you're learning, and also striving to really understand what's happening. And that's what pushes science forward, and it's what's going to really add to your experience in school and also life. So that was my first impression of UBC, and then at this point I was in general science, and I was studying lots of different things. I had lots of interests, and I didn't exactly know how I wanted to specialize, because in university you do need to specialize within a certain area. And so when I first started in UBC, I ended up taking this elective, and it was about brain injury and dysfunction. And it had this amazing prof, Michael Souza, and I walked into that classroom and had my first class and was just like, wow, I really like this. I want to study this. So essentially, after that, I started to direct my degree more towards neuroscience, which is the study of the brain. Who here is at all interested in neuroscience? Kind of. Who here has learned about the nervous system in biology? A little bit. I guess I actually only started learning about it in grade 12, but in high school I had a very limited exposure to the nervous system, so I didn't really know. By the time I went to university, I didn't know it was something I wanted to study. But I think that after I started to learn more about it within that first psychology class, I was really amazed, and I wanted to study it more. So yeah, here's a little bit of a list of the things I study. It's all within neuroscience, and as you can see, it's very broad. There's lots of different things going on here. And so what I had to figure out when I first started going to UBC was, how am I going to do all of this but within one degree? And what is that degree going to be? Because it doesn't fall into biology. It doesn't fall into psychology. Yeah?
Just give this slide for a while so we can get all of these things.
Yeah, of course. You're going to be tested on after that, so. No, just joking. Yeah, so I had lots of stuff going on, and I had to figure out how I was going to get it into my degree. And one of the great things about UBC is that they have lots of opportunity for combined majors and integrated degrees. And so that's when I first found out about integrated sciences, which is the program I'm in now. And in integrated sciences, what you do is you choose 2 or 3 disciplines, and within those disciplines, you essentially create a curriculum and design a degree, and you choose which courses you want to take within that degree, and you have to justify each course and say why that fits into your degree. So that's what I ended up doing, and I ended up choosing the disciplines of physiology and psychology. And the mentor that I had for that was the prof of that first class I took, Michael Souza. So he was really instrumental in helping me kind of shape how I was going to turn this into an actual vision for a degree. And that vision ended up being understanding how physiological processes contribute to brain dysfunction and disorders. So essentially taking your general, can I switch stuff down? Yeah, so essentially it's taking what's on this side, which is kind of more like a physiology, biology side, so an understanding of molecular and cellular biology, chemistry, using that to understand how the human body works, what are the different systems within the human body, and then on the other side, understanding a bit more in psychology, so what comprises the nervous system, what is the brain made up of, and then neurons, which are the cells within the brain, how do they communicate, and when they're communicating, how does this give rise to behavior and how we think. And so then when you combine these two, you're understanding how physiological processes contribute to this communication and contribute to behavior and brain function. And finally, how is this disrupted in disease and disorders? So this is kind of like a visualization of the way I approach my degree, and kind of starting at more basic general courses to very specialized courses. Finally, university is a lot more, and there's a lot more to university than classes. So so when you start going to university, or when you start looking into universities, you'll see that they have tons of clubs, lots of research, and so there's lots of opportunities to kind of expand your learning beyond classes. And so when I was in my last 3 years, I've had the opportunity to work with Stephanie Meyer, who is doing research into bar-headed geese, which are geese in the Himalayas that like fly extremely high and do so for extended periods of time. So they're looking into how their red blood cells are adapted to high altitudes, and for disease, looking into like how can we improve that for people who have blood disorders. And I also got to work with Dr. Flesko, who is schizophrenia, and I was specifically looking into how social interaction is impacted in schizophrenia. So I did both of those research here at UBC, and it's probably something if you guys maybe, has anyone here had the opportunity in high school to do any research? I don't know if there might be opportunities for you guys, but definitely when you go to university, I would really recommend doing research because it's a really good opportunity to kind of go beyond what your course is teaching you. I also joined the neurology club because I was obviously really interested in neuroscience and neurology. I joined the UBC Biomedical Engineering student team, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And I also started to do some fun things like skiing and surfing. And I joined the surf club and was like kind of the trip coordinator and organized trips to like Santa Cruz and Tofino and stuff like that. So that was really fun. Gave me a lot of opportunities to meet some people. Okay, kind of shifting gears now. That was kind of my academic history. And then now I'm going to talk a little bit about traveling. So this past fall, which was would have been my 3rd year, I took the semester off and decided to travel. The end of my 2nd year, I kind of decided that I was a little overwhelmed by school. I had been in school for so long, and so I wanted to kind of take some time off and just kind of spend time on my own, do some fun things, and also see different parts of the world. And so I went traveling on my own to Asia. I went to Indonesia, Philippines, and Nepal. This is a photo. On the top left are some monkeys in Indonesia. Those are some rice paddies in Indonesia. This is me making a lobster dinner with this little family. And this is from the Philippines. Again, cooking. I really like to cook. And those are mangosteens, which are one of the best types of fruit. If you guys ever get to try them. Yeah, so that was a pretty cool experience that I had. I got to go to some really interesting places, and I also started to get a little bit more into scuba diving and underwater photography. So this is a photo I took while I was scuba diving, and that's another one. Yeah, so that was something really fun for me to do, and taking time off university is, I think, for some people a really good thing to do, and I don't think you should be intimidated by how that may affect your degree. It's good to do some learning outside of school, and I definitely learned a lot about myself. On that trip, I also went to Nepal, and going to Nepal was a bit less of a fun, kind of like a fun travel experience. I decided to do some volunteering there, so I had the opportunity in Nepal to spend a month shadowing doctors at a cardiac center, and so I shadowed pediatric cardiologists and cardiac surgeons for a month, and had the opportunity to basically go with them, visit all their patients, go to the wards, go to the emergency room, go to the operating room, and so I got to see a lot of different things within cardiology, and it kind of really sparked my interest into medicine, which is what I now want to do with my life. I want to become a doctor, and for any of you guys interested in medicine, I really recommend getting an opportunity to kind of experience like what the day-to-day life of a doctor is like, because I think for me, that made me just decide that's what I want to do. It also sparked my interest in global health, which is something that we're now pursuing within our engineering team. And yeah, kind of made me come to some decisions about my future.
Okay, next. So this is my beginning of my academic career in kindergarten, and took me to grade 12. I was in the same school from kindergarten to grade 12, so for 13 years. And it was a great experience, learned a lot. And in between that, I did some pretty cool stuff. I dedicated most of my time to school, soccer, and then I loved to travel. So for school, my favorite subject was always math, and it was always my best subject as well. I was also the head girl of my school in my grade 12 year, so I really enjoyed that experience and like getting a leadership role. And then I'm going to touch upon my grade 12 lesson later on in this slide. Okay, so just a little bit about what I did outside of school, because school is so important, but I think it's also important to balance out other things. So one of the things that I like to do is travel. These are just photos of some of the places that I've been. So Croatia, that's in Venice, and that's in Thailand. Yeah, and then one of the most significant experiences I've ever had is I went to India on a service project, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences to be able to give back to the community. And I also played a lot of soccer. This is where my lesson comes in. So in my grade 12 year, I spent a lot of time applying for schools. And what I basically want to say is that kind of follow your dreams and your passions, but don't sacrifice your whole life for it. Make sure there's other things in your life that you do and you enjoy besides school. Okay, so for me, engineering, I found out that I wanted to do biomedical engineering when I was in grade 11. I happened to find it in a magazine, and it was 3D printing the stem cells for organs. They were 3D printing an ear. And I thought that was probably one of the most amazing things I'd ever heard, and I just wanted to know, how did they do that? And that's all what engineering is. It's getting a problem and finding solutions and figuring out how stuff works. And I'm in mechanical engineering. Who knows what mechanical engineers do? I didn't in my first year, and all I knew about it was that I wasn't interested in it. But I ended up going into it, and I ended up going into mechanical engineering and have been so happy with my choices. So some of the stuff that I get to do in my classes, I get to build cars and robots, mini ones. So we have a machine shop, and we've done 2 projects where we get to build mini cars. So engineering is so great for the fact that you get to be very hands-on. You get to actually design a project and build it. So just a little bit of my background in biomedical engineering. I worked in the UBC Robotics and Control Lab. I was segmenting CT scans of a wrist. So it was for, they were going to use the research for potentially helping imaging in surgery. Now we're going to move on to Beth. Marysia and I are both on the biomedical engineering student team. So that's how we collaborate together. I started on it in my first year of engineering. I was really interested in biomedical engineering, and I knew that was what I wanted to do. So when I heard there was a club, I got right on board and I joined. It's a very interdisciplinary team. So if you're in sciences or you're in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, chemical, all of those combine to work on this team to work on a biomedical engineering project. So some of the projects that we work on are the music to movement device, which is what I work on, and it's a stroke rehabilitation device. So that's me doing the electronics for one of the touchpads. And so what our purpose is to integrate music motivation into stroke rehabilitation. Because sometimes when patients are being rehabilitated, it can be very tedious. Some of the actions that the occupational therapists get them to do is basically move a bottle across the table back and forth 100 times, or squeeze the bottle to restore movement. And so it can be very tedious and not very motivating. So one of the things that we are aiming to do is to make it more interactive and to make it more fun. So there's a lot of research that with musical therapy being really helpful when restoring movement. So we're trying to, we've finished the project, we have a prototype, and we're submitting it to our competition in May. And so, yeah, you can check out our blog, which I'll give you at the end, for more information on this device.
Yeah. And then the project that I'm working on is an app for Ebola treatment centers in Western Africa. And what this app is going to do is it's going to be a way for doctors to record patient findings, and then within a high-risk ward. So Ebola is an infectious disease, so there's high-risk wards where people with the disease are contained, and then there's low-risk wards where there is not the disease. And so to get information between the two, we're installing we're creating an app that doctors can use on a tablet in the high-risk ward, so that they record information and then it's sent to the low-risk ward to a database where it can be reviewed, and also certain requests for medication and everything can be sent. So this is the team that I work on. These finding paper patient finding sheets to an app form, it's called an electronic medical record system. And then this, so the way that this app is going to work and the communication is going to occur is going to be on a local mesh network, which is similar to Wi-Fi, but it doesn't require Wi-Fi, so it still has routers. But it's perfect for a low resource setting like this where they don't always have constant wireless contact. So this leads us into the third project we're working on. This is the one we're both working on together, and it's a low resource medical device initiative. And it's essentially a research trip to Uganda and Kenya to identify medical challenges associated with technology and devices within low resource settings, as well as to set up collaborations with students, medical professionals, and yeah, so Gigi, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think we're out of time, but yeah, we're going next Friday. So Marysia and I are leaving for Uganda and Kenya next Friday. We're basically going to be looking at hospitals and meeting with medical professionals there, and hopefully bringing back proposals for devices that we can build and send to them to help implement and address medical challenges they face. It's a really interesting project, and we've gotten a lot of support from the UBC community and from external donors, so we're very